Hello everybody, welcome to this wonderful reading. I'm Zoe Alex, welcome. In this reading I'm going to provide you is that going to be for the April the 13th to April the 19th of 2025. So this is going to be a very interesting how this wonderful reading is going to go. I know that there might be imposes about what's going on in this situation, and this is how graceful it is. But the point being is that in this wonderful reading, you need to pay attention about how you're going to be doing, how your own strengths, your weaknesses, your abilities, from the right and wrong perspective. But the way of how this is the way of how the dialogue is. You pay attention to it. You know what to do. You know how you can understand about how it is. When you have faith, when you have ability from, letting go or whatever it is, you pay attention to it on how you're feeling wanted, how you're feeling needed. And that's how it seems to be. But the point being is that in this whole entire remarkable reading, this is the way of how it is. You have to provide what you're looking for in this whole entire situation, because that's how it seems to be. Because normally this is the way it goes. This is how you can achieve it and believe it and everything else. But you have to focus on your own way of how you can do it, right? It's the way of how you can have your own pressure point and say, all right, well, God doesn't know what to do. But you have to understand about how you can do it, how you can understand that. That's the way it seems to be, because that's the way it seems to be, right? That's the way it goes. So, the oracle card that I'm going to read you is health. I will honor the physical vessel that enshrines my soul. So, when you have the word health, it's the ability to look at it from that perspective, that well-being about how it is. When you have the health, you basically understand what's going on, right? Health is ability from working at it. Where you're having good, when you're having the way of how it is. That's the way it seems to be. This is highly the way of how it goes, and theoretically, it seems to be how it is, right? This is the way it seems to be. So when you look at your health, you know what to do, but that's how it seems to be. All right. So that's how it is. So I'm going to look at from the way of how this is, from basically from the left side, the right side, and we will figure out the middle. That's the way it goes, right? That's the way it seems to be. And when you know that, you have to do exactly what you're doing, and that's how it seems to be in that way. So that's the way it kind of goes in that way, and that's how it is in that way of how it goes, right? That's how it seems to be. So it's the way it goes. But here we go. So basically, in this situation, you have the Ace of Cups that represents Scorpio, Pisces, Cancer. That's the way it goes. So this is like a water sign. The efficiency of how it goes. That's the way it seems to be. The Knight of Pentacles reveals that you're feeling comfortable, you're feeling uncomfortable, but that's how it is in that way. You have to do what you can and say, all right, well, this is the way it seems to be. I got this. But the way of how this is, the way of how you can sense your own ability and your own priorities of how it goes, you have to understand, okay, well, I got this. I know what to do. I can see it. That's the way it seems to be, because you have to remember that when you face your own truths, your own abilities, your own lectures, you do what you can, but you focus on how you're feeling. Focus about how you can do it in that way, and that's how it seems to be in that way. That's the way it goes, right? So you have to believe that, okay, well, I know what to do, I got this, but that's how it seems to be in that way. So let's see what's going on in that way. We're going to look at from the left side, please. So the five of Wands reversed, followed by the Three of Swords reversed, followed by the Sun card reversed. Yeah, because you're in negativity. When you're in negativity, things are not going as planned, things are not going your way, things are not going as the way it goes. This is like unexpected. When you feel like everything is unexpected, you think, okay, well, this is the way it happens. It does. But in reality, you think that, oh, well, this is great. I got this. It's like, yeah. But the point is that how you can do it, how you can only know what's going on in that way, and thinking, all right, well, I got this. That's how it is. You prove your own point. When you prove your own point, you know what it is. You know what's going on, right? And when everything seems to be fine, you think, okay, well, I know what to do. I got this. But you have to understand that. You give and you forget. That's the way it goes. But you have to understand that when you're in negativity, it draws into that situation. You're thinking, well, this is not going to end well because you're focusing on having negative, right? When you're in negative, that's where it is, right? You're having low energy levels. You're not having a good day. You're in a moody way or whatever it is. You're not in a good mood, whatever it is, and that's how it affects you. That's why you're feeling uncomfortable because the way it goes. But I'm going to clarify this. Queen of Cups is upright, followed with the 5 of Swords reverse, followed with the 10 of Swords reverse, followed with the Knight of Wands is upright. So it does represent where you're having empathy because you're seeing two sides of the story here. One makes sense, one doesn't make sense. And then the other way is where the Knight of Wands is upright, where you're being like you're immature, right? That's the way it goes. When you focus about being immature, it doesn't work out that way. You're thinking, well, this is gonna be the way of how this is going to be impressive or not impressive. That's the way it goes. But that's how it seems to be, right? Because we are trying to figure out, like where I'm trying to figure out about like who's the feminine in this situation, who's the man in this situation. It doesn't look like that. But you have to think about this is like a huge, huge, huge puzzle, right? It's a puzzle. When you do puzzles, you know what to do, right? When this is not a puzzle yet, you're trying to find the corners, you're trying to find the pieces, you're trying to find everything until it fits, right? That's what it seems to be. But that's how it kind of goes. So let's see what's going on in the middle. Okay, it's the 4 of Pentacles reversed. So it does represent you're not focusing on money yet, not yet, but that's the way it goes. So you're thinking, okay, well, I know how to do it. I can get this. That's the way it goes. So you need to understand about this is like a peeling of knowing what to do, and you do what you can because that's the way it goes. So let me figure out who's on the left side. Okay, the Chariot is upright. Who's in the middle? Death card. Okay, so there's endings. Who's on the right? The Judgment is upright. So you're going to take action. Alright, so basically for that note, that's the way it seems to be in that way. And you're thinking, okay, well, this is the way it seems to be. So let's figure out this. What's the Chariot card on the left side, please? The Chariot again. Alright, clarify the Strength card. So when I said the Chariot, you have progress, but then I clarify the Chariot means you have progress again. So you're making 2 progresses. That's the way it goes. The Strength card does represent Leo, but you're having that strength. You're having that extra strength because you pay attention on the way of how everything is, and you're thinking, alright, well, I can do it. I know how I can do it. You're just being aware about what's going on in that situation, and you think, okay, well, this is the way it goes. Yes, it is. But you have to have your own point of view, your own percentage, right? From 0 to 100%, right? You have that way. You have to understand about, alright, well, this is the way it goes. I need to represent this. That's the way it seems to be. What's this Death card represent? The Fool reversed, but the World is upright. So there's completion here, alright? What's also with this Fool card here? The Tower is upright. So there is transformation. Everything is changing bit by bit, day by day, week by week, month by month, and year by year. When you look at it that way, that's the way it goes. Because you think, okay, well, I know what to do. This is the way it goes. I'm going to follow my own lead because that's the way it seems to be. You're following your own intuition. You have your own gut feelings. You know how it is in that way, and you're thinking, alright, this is the wonderful aspect of how it is. That's the way it goes. That's the way of how you're having your own generation or your own mechanism, whatever it is. But you know what I mean, right? That's the way it goes. What's this Judgment here about? The Emperor is upright, but the Star is upright. Yeah, because you're basically saying that you want inspiration, you want to have structure, because that's the way it goes. So when I look at this reading, it's like a beautiful reading right now, right? It's beautiful. But the way of how this is, whether things are going to be going up and down, whatever it is, you have to do that. You have to believe that, alright, well, this is the way it seems to be. I got this. But it's like, well, do you understand this? Right? Does it make any perfect sense? Right? That's the way it goes. You have to, whatever things are going to be going, that's the way it seems to be. Right? That's the way it goes. Where, okay, well, I know what to do. I got this. but you have to believe that. In order to believe it, you're trying to remember that seeing is believing, believing is seeing. That's all you can do. But then you need to understand, okay, well, this is the way it seems to be. I got this, right? Like how could you say that you got this? No, you don't. But you have to face that. You have to face your own reality, right? You have to understand about how you can do it. And when you look at this, you think, okay, well, this is the way it goes. That's the way it seems to be. So let me go from the middle to the left, middle to the right. Queen of Cups reversed, followed with 3 Pentacles reversed, followed with the 10 of Swords upright, followed with the Hangman's upright. So you have these conclusions on the left side, right? Because you do, right? So you'd be focusing on a Gemini, Libra, Aquarius as air signs, as zodiac signs. You, basically the Hangman is upright because you have restrictions, right? It's the way of how it goes. You can't go anywhere or whatever it is because, you know, someone could be controlling you, whatever it is, and you don't like that, right? That's the way of how it is because it's basically trying to think that, oh, well, I know what to do, but then it's like, this is like a misunderstanding, or the way of how this is. It's not very good. But that's how it is, right? What's happening between the middle and the right side, please? A Pentacles reversed, King of Cups reversed, Ace of Pentacles reversed, followed by the Knight of Swords is upright. Yeah, so it does represent drama here, because you're thinking, well, this is not the way I hoped. This is the way of how, this is like unexpected. It is unexpected because that's the way it seems to be. When you have unexpected, it is, right? That's the way it seems to be. So you need to understand that you do what you can to, based on how your own intuition, your own way, your own satisfactory, guaranteed, because in that way you're focusing about, this is 100% accurate. This is it, right? That's the way it is. Because you think that, okay, well, everything seems to be fine, but then it's like, well, that's the way it goes, right? That's the way it seems to be. So let's see. Let's see what the universe is saying. And there's more oracle cards, and there's the Enchanted Mapp. Alright, so I'm going to do this a different way. So I'm going to see this where you guys and gals, whoever, ladies and guys, are paying attention to this video. Alright, so I'm going to clarify. Now, I'm going to clarify on the left side, then I'm going to clarify the middle, and I'm going to clarify the right. You will see all this information, because then you will see it, and that's the way it seems to be. Alright? So the King Cups reversed, there's no support on the left side. What's in the middle? 5 Wands is upright, there's chaos. Alright. What's on the right side? The Ace of Wands reversed, there's no new beginnings. Alright, so the way of how this is, the way of how I'm going to basically interpret it about it, that's the way it goes. So I'm going to clarify. I'm going to clarify the left side about the King of Cups. The 7 Pentacles is upright, followed by the Queen of Cups is upright. So the 7 Pentacles does represent your vision, your career. You know, you're facing about that, because you're focusing on what's going on in that way, because you're trying to not be superstitious, or you're trying to be the way of how it is. You're trying to understand that the way of how it goes, because that's the way it needs to be. The Queen of Cups does represent empathy, because there's two sides of the story here. One makes sense, one does make sense. But you know how it is, right? Because you need to understand that in the way of how this is, the way of how you can have your own interaction, because that's the way it seems to be in that way. Because you have to choose that. You have to choose, about what's going on in situations, because that's the way it goes, right? You have to understand about the above and beyond that point, whether you like it or not, whether you see it as my own point of view, because that's the way it goes. Because you think, all right, well, I know what to do, I got this, but you have to play by the rules, play about where you know what to do, but that's how it's going to be in that way. That's the way it goes, because you have to impose the situation, whether you do like it or not. So you can be focusing on Scorpio, Pisces, Cancer as far as signs. You could be focusing on Virgo, Capricorn, Taurus as earth signs, as zodiac signs as well, because you pay attention to that. What's this Five of Wands about in the middle? Eight Pentacles is upright, so there's perfection, and the Five Pentacles reverse, there's no insecurity. Ace Pentacles reverse, there's no growth. Page of Wands reverse, there's no invention. The Emperor reverse, there's no structure. The Strength card reverse, you're basically not being brave because you're feeling scared, right? Because that's the way it goes. Because when you have no bravery, because you're not being brave, right? That's the way it seems to be. And let me see about the opposite of that card, please. The Knight of Pentacles is upright. Yeah, it does represent trust, but you have to trust your own intuition. Trust about how you can see it in the way of how this is, because you understand about how it goes. That's the way it seems to be, because you're trying to not to fear. You're trying to do what you can, because you're imposing that situation, whether you like it or not, where you need to trust your own motives. Whether, okay, well, I know what to do, I got this, alright, so be it. That's the way it seems to be, right? That's the way it goes. What's happening on the right side, please? Those reverse, there's no decisions. The justice reverse, because you're not telling the truth. Yeah, because you're lying about something. Wow. Yeah, that's the way it goes. What's happening with that card, please? The Queen of Swords is upright. Yeah, because you're trying to have independence. Yeah, but the way of how this is, the way of how you're trying to, I'm not going to say interfere, but the way of how where you're lying about what's happening from your health or whatever it is, because you're lying about something. Whether you lie, it's basically telling me that you need to focus about having your own independence, having your own, the way of how this is. You have to pay attention whether you like it or not, whether you have your own basic needs, because that's the way it seems to be. You're focusing. When you focus, you have to focus on your mental health, your own way, whether you feel like, okay, well, I know how I can do it, I know how I can focus, I know what I'm going to be doing. That's the way it goes, right? Because you're focusing on your health. Whether you're focusing about that, that's the way it goes. But less is more, where you pay attention about that. You're paying attention about what's going on in that situation, because that's the way it goes. You are focusing on what's happening in that way, where you have your own guidance, whether you're feeling like, okay, everything seems to be fine. That's the way it goes, because you're focusing on that. Focusing is the best option there is. Like, that's the way it goes, right? Because you're focusing about what you want, what you need, what you contribute. That's the way it goes, right? Because you pay attention. That's how it seems to be. Because you have to look at this. Like, this is huge, isn't it? Yeah, it's huge information. That's why this is a lot of information. It does. Right? So, let's see. Let's see who's on the left side. Who's in the middle? Who's on the right? So let's see who's on the left side. The Four of Earth. Being too various or too cautious with money. Good business decisions. Giving to those less fortunate. Yeah, because you're focusing about trying to stay where you're focusing about where if you're being rich, or where you're being if you're being rich as much, and you give it to the needy as the poor, or whatever it is. That's the way it goes, where you're focusing on that. Because there's a good saying is, Sharing is caring, caring is sharing. That's the way it goes, right? Because this is the way it happens, where you like it or not, where you pay attention, whether you focus on whether you like it in that way. So you'd be focusing on a Virgo, Capricorn, or Taurus as zodiac signs, as earth signs. Okay. Who's in the middle? The Ten of Fire. Too much work. Accept help from others. Life is out of balance. Stress-related health concerns. Yeah, so you could be focusing about having stress-related health concerns, or there was something that was not going right or wrong, because you're focusing on that. Focusing about what's going on in that way and saying, alright, well, this is the way it seems to be, because you're focusing on that. Focusing about where you have your own truth, your own ways, your own abilities, because that's how it is. So you'll be focusing on Leo, Aries, or Sagittarius as fire signs, as zodiac signs. Okay? And what's happening on the right side? The Five of Water. Things not turning out the way you have hoped, not seeing the positive in a situation, crying over spilled milk. Yeah, that's the way you're having right now, because you're focusing about what was going on, because things are not going as planned. That's the way it seems to be, because you have to remember that this is the way it goes, where you know what to do, but then you focus about that. So you're focusing on what's going on in that situation, and that's how it seems to be. So you could be dealing with another Pisces, Cancer, or Scorpio as water signs, as zodiac signs. Okay? That's the way it seems to be. Now let's see who's on the left, who's in the middle, who's on the right. Let's see. So on the left it says the High Lady of Love and Compassion, reverence, kindness, consideration. Yeah, see, that's the way it goes. So you'll be dealing with another feminine as a woman. It could be a Virgo, Capricorn, Taurus as zodiac sign, as earth signs. So you pay attention to how it is, where you might be having your own kindness, or whether it is, but then you're acting out where you're not having any kindness, or you're acting like everything's fine, but it's like, no, it's not. That's the way it goes. So you have to focus about that. So that's what it seems to be. Alright, that's the way it goes. Okay? Who's in the middle? The Spiral Dancer. Circulus, root, perception. That's the way it goes, where, that's how it is. It could be a continuous cycle of how it is. Whether, okay, well, I know what to do, I got this, but then it's like, wait a second, I don't know what to do. But that's how it is, right? So you have to understand that the way of how this is, that's where you focus on what's happening in that way. And you're thinking, alright, well, everything's keen, but it's not that, right? That's the way it goes, right? Where everything seems to be great, but then it's not. So that's the way it seems to be. So you'd be focusing on a Leo, Aries, or Sagittarius as the feminine woman. Okay? Let's see on the right side. The Web Weaver. Synchronicity, divine intelligence, cause and effect. That's the way it goes. So you could be feeling like where there could be a cause and effect of the situation, and that's the way it seems to be, where everything seems to be alright, but it's like, no, it's not, right? So you have to feel the vibration, or you feel about what you want. That's the way it goes, right? So you have to forgive or forget, or regret, or whatever it is, but then you focus on that, right? So you could be focusing on a Pisces, Cancer, or Scorpio as a feminine woman as well. So basically you have 3 women in this situation, right? So that's the way it kind of imposes of that situation. And you think, okay, well, this is the way it seems to be, because that's the way, I prove this, but then this is the way it seems to be. Is you're trying to focus on what's going on in this situation, right? And you're focusing on the way of how you can focus, and that's how it seems to be. So you have to do what you're told to do, because you'd be responsible. So let's see what's happening. So you're going to hear my beautiful voice. Because you're going to hear this. You're going to hear my beautiful voice. Number 25. Metamorphosis. That's a long word to say. So let's see. Alright, so Metamorphosis. It says, here we go. You're in the process of deep and beautiful change. So here we go. Upright. Butterflies earn their wings through great effort. The process of change is often painful, for it is never without losses and sacrifices. If you are to transformation from one form to another, a part of you needs to die. Letting go isn't easy, especially when you are used to thinking a certain way about your life, how you live it. Just as a snake sheds its dead skin, or a caterpillar dies, so that a butterfly can be born. You're required to release your old ideas and embrace the necessary change so you can live your best life. Perhaps you're being asked to let go of low self-worth, a dream that no longer serves you, relationship that is draining, or unhealthy habits. Despite your fear, you must accept that this is a transformational time for you. There will be some loss involved, but you will love what you become. So that's how it seems to be. So there is always the way of how it is, where you have to remember that things will come and go as the way it goes into someone's life, whether that's the way it seems to be. But then you need to understand about how you can understand where you focus about what's going on in that way. You have to do what you can and say, all right, well, this is the way it seems to be. This is why I'm going to be in tune of this situation, because you need to understand that. So when you believe it, that's the way it seems to be. This is why it is, and this is why that is a beautiful reading. But that's how it seems to be in this way. So you do what you can because you focus on that, and that's how it seems to be. So thank you all about this, and thank you so much. Give it a like, give it a comment, and enjoy. And I will see you next time. And this is how it is. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day to all. And bye for now. Really. Bye.